working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans. Because right now, the demand for housing that is affordable to everyday Americans is here, and it greatly exceeds the supply. And so we have to bring that into balance. And we said from day one of this presidency that we will work with any one of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle if they're actually committed to driving down housing costs or costs for everyday Americans. But they decided to take a my way or the highway approach to jam this one big ugly bill down the throats of the American people. And that's why the American people now, across the board, understand Republican policies have failed. They failed on the economy. They failed on lowering costs. They failed on housing costs. They failed on health care. They're failing on immigration enforcement. They are a complete and total failure. It's one of the reasons why they're losing elections all across the United States of America and why they're trying to gerrymander the national congressional map, which we have forcefully pushed back against and will not allow to happen.
Congresswoman Valerie Foushee is facing a primary challenge from Nita Alam. She's backed by Bernie Sanders. Can you comment on that primary, which is coming up in just a couple weeks in North Carolina?
I strongly support the Congresswoman, as is the case with the Congressional Black Caucus and many of her colleagues that have served with Val for the last several years. She's a tremendous member of Congress, very thoughtful, very studious, very serious, and very forceful in advocating on behalf of her constituents and pushing back against Donald Trump's extremism. For us in the House, primaries are a way of life. That's just the reality. You know, the framers decided that the House would be the institution that is closest to the American people, to reflect the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations, the fears, the concerns, the anxieties, the life experiences, and in the words of the framers, the passions of the people. And one of the ways in which they effectuated that dynamic is to give the House a 2-year term. And so every 2 years, we have to go back to the people to make an argument to persuade them to renew our 2-year employment contract. That's just a way of life. It must be nice to have a 6-year term. But we don't have that luxury. And so that's going to mean, in many districts across the country, that there will be active primaries. And we embrace that as a reality of what the House is supposed to represent. But at the same period of time, I stand behind every single one of my Democratic colleagues, from the most progressive, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, to the more centrist ones like Tom Suozzi, and everybody in between. I stand behind all of them. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that they're all reelected.
Leader Jeffries, in regards to the State of the Union, do you have any concerns about having such a high-profile major security event that has a lot of Secret Service responsibilities during a DHS shutdown?
You know, the administration is ultimately going to have to make the decision as to whether it's appropriate optically to come up to Capitol Hill in the middle of Republicans deciding to shut down the Department of Homeland Security. At this particular point in time, with House Republicans barely in the majority and narrowly holding on with great desperation, the invitation to a State of the Union address, of course, is extended by Speaker Mike Johnson. And so we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. But it is somewhat challenging beyond the security situation that Donald Trump is going to come up to Capitol Hill when we know the real state of the economy is failing, the real state of health care failing, the real state of immigration enforcement failing. The State of the Union is falling apart, and the American people know it. That, to me, is the significant challenge that Donald Trump will confront. and coming up to Capitol Hill to try to lie, spin, and misdirect the American people, and it's not going to work.
Have you spoken to Speaker Johnson about Randy Fine's comments that you posted about on X?
I have not had a conversation with Speaker Johnson yet about the so-called congressman's comments.